Okay.
This is one of the more uncomfortable postures I've ever had.
Really? We should probably have gotten you a little stool.
Yeah.
Kim Campbell, thank you very much for being on Metro Cafe. First thing I'd like to ask you, your book, Time and Chance. What was the purpose? Sorry. Your book, Time and Chance, what was the purpose of writing it?
Well, I just thought I'd had a very interesting life, and that some of the good parts got lost in the shuffle in 1993, and I wanted to kind of tell the whole story and share with people the ups and the downs and the goods and the bads, and put it all together. And it was great fun writing it.
Has there been lots of ups and downs and goods and bad?
Oh yeah, I mean I've had successes, defeats, and I don't go into huge detail about my personal life, but one of the things I wanted to do was to write a political memoir that was about a human being, not a cardboard cutout. I haven't always been perfect about things. I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth, and most people in politics are also human beings. So I wanted to tell the story of a real life, which had some, wonderful parts and some difficult parts. Because I think sometimes if people feel discouraged, I couldn't do that because, you have to be able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. I mean, they won't have that feeling when they read my book. But on the other hand, it was a wonderful life, and I'm anxious to share it.
Did you accomplish everything you hoped to accomplish by writing this book?
Oh, I think so. The first draft was about twice as long as the final book. I mean, and that's agonizing as you hack it out and you go, oh, that's such a good story. I mean, there are lots of other nice stories that I'd like to tell, but then I'd have a book that only my, close blood relatives would ever read, and even they do it under protest. So there are lots of stories that, maybe will never get told, or I could tell them in another circumstance. But no, I think I'm actually quite pleased with the book because although a lot of people have been fixating on the election part, which is just actually a small part of the book, but even the painful parts, when you write about them, you kind of work it through in your own mind and come to some kind of understanding. So it was, quite therapeutic for me. I enjoyed it very much. And I think, I'm happy with the book.
Is there a misconception about you that you want to straighten out by writing this book?
Straighten out?
Well, listen, Mr. Misconception.
Listen, it'll take more than this book to straighten me out. I mean, I'm beyond hope. But no. I mean, you mean rehabilitate myself, or?
Well, no, like a public opinion, for instance, about you that people have, compiled that is totally not you.
Well, I think sometimes, I meet people who will say when they meet me, gee, you're very different from the image I had of you. So I did feel that I wanted, when people put the book down, to feel they know me. That's assuming they put it down after reading it. If they put it down before they've read it, then they won't be very well informed. But no, I wanted people to feel they knew me. And it's funny because sometimes, I travel the country and there are people who obviously feel that they know me and they're very friendly and whatever, and others don't. So it's hard to know why some people feel they have a well-rounded impression of you and some don't. But yeah, and I think you do have to take responsibility for telling your own story in your own words. And it's only one version. I mean, I tell the story of the things that I experienced from my perspective, and others may have different views.
How do you feel about critics?
Depends on what they say. Well, I think one of the things that interested me was that some of the first responses to the book didn't seem to be so much about the book. But I knew when I wrote the book that there would be criticism. And I wanted the book to be controversial but not scandalous, personal but not indiscreet, and acerbic but not mean-spirited. And I think it is controversial. I mean, if I wrote a book that didn't create any controversy, it would be a pretty bland book. I mean, it would be, you're anti-insomnia. Yeah. And so, I have strong views about things, and there are, in politics you make enemies. But I think, that just goes with the territory. At least they don't demonstrate when I do book signings. That's a good thing.
Now, is there fun in politics? Can you have fun if you are a prime minister?
Oh, yeah. You meet some wonderful people. And I can speak less about being prime minister. I didn't have a lot of fun when I was prime minister because we were trying to do so much in a short period of time. I shouldn't say I didn't have fun. It was fun doing it.
It wasn't what you thought it would.
Oh, yeah, well, it sure was. The prime minister part was straightforward for me. Trying to pull together a campaign and whatever in a short period of time was more difficult. But I think when I went to G7, for example, I'd been reading about this stuff. I had taught international politics. I'd done international meetings as defense minister and justice minister. But yeah, it was fun. I mean, it was wonderful to, actually, one of the things that struck me was we'd be in a room when you're all government leaders, even though you're from different countries, you all have the same kind of life. I mean, you're all being screamed and yelled at home. And so you kind of cling together in the room, it's kind of like group therapy around the G7 table. We're all suffering from the same things. And I had wonderful fun just traveling the country and meeting people and seeing how the office of Prime Minister can draw people together. And I think that's very important, that people may be angry at particular people who hold the office, but there is still a respect for the office. And people were excited and enthusiastic. That was a lot of fun. I had fun creating my new cabinet. It was a kind of a jigsaw puzzle where you're trying to balance all sorts of interests and considerations. And I write about that in the book. I don't think anybody's ever written about that before. Like, what goes through your mind when you're putting together a cabinet, and what are the trade-offs you make, and how do you feel about that? So yes, you can have fun. And, I think the thing about being in public life and being in politics is you meet so many wonderful people, and people just open up their communities to you. If you're curious about something, you want to know about something, people are delighted to show you, take you around, tell you what they're about. And yeah, you can have a lot of fun. You can, sometimes feel like jumping out the window too, but I've so far restrained myself. It's a fear of heights. I jump out the window, but I'm too scared of heights.
Pretty high here.
Yeah.
Now, let's go back in time to your university days.
Mm-hmm.
If I did my homework correctly, you were student body president?
No, I was the Frosh president of the freshman class, and later I was vice president of the student body. That was my last political office until years later I ran for school board.
Now, did you know at that time that one day you would become Prime Minister?
No, and in fact, I wasn't interested in politics as such. I began to think about politics a little bit when I was a teenager. I wanted to do something to make the world a better place. And of course, I'm much older than you. In my day, the Cold War was a big thing, and issues of war and peace and international stability were more important for me. And I studied international politics as an undergraduate and then went on to be a Soviet specialist at graduate school. So when I was 16, I used to tell people earnestly that I wanted to be the first woman Secretary General of the UN. And then when I was Prime Minister, I met the Secretary General of the UN, and his problems were a lot worse than my problems. So I thought, oh, good choice not to do that. That was difficult.
Now, in the United States, celebrities and politics mix sometimes. Some politicians make appearances on TV shows. This doesn't happen often in Canada. How do you feel about mixing politics with showbiz, for instance?
Well, I think that just because somebody, is a wonderful performer on the stage doesn't make them necessarily an astute political advisor. So I kind of like the Canadian system where we don't do that. On the other hand, I think when people in public office themselves, go out and communicate to people in non-traditional audiences. I think during the 93 election campaign, I did a stint on MTV, which was kind of fun. That was an audience of young people who probably didn't watch a lot of political shows. Some might not. And I think you do have to go out and talk to your constituents, you get to know people, and you learn a heck of a lot too when you do that. So that concerns me less. I don't think that one should stand on, you should be dignified, but not pompous. You wouldn't wear a three-piece suit on MTV or...
So when Bill Clinton made an appearance on Arsenio Hall and played the sax...
Yeah, why not? Look, he's a person. And everybody in the United States who toodles away on an instrument on their weekend, that they played in high school, they want to keep... they can relate to that. Now, it's not an argument to say that you support his foreign policy or you agree with his position on the budget. All it says is, look, the guy in Washington who's doing that is a person. So let's think of him as a person. Let's not expect him to be perfect, but let's hold him to standards that are reasonable to hold human beings to. But he's a human being, and I think that's what I mean when I say that gets lost. And why shouldn't people know that you have a sense of humor, that you like dogs, that you.
Your favorite TV show?
Well, I hardly ever watch television, I have to confess. Oh yeah, I'm really. I'm terrible. If I play Trivial Pursuit, all the TV questions, I just answer Leave It to Beaver, because that's usually what the answer is. Actually, I shouldn't say that, because when I go to Toronto and visit my stepdaughter, we used to watch Chicago Hope. I have to say, I loved Mandy Patinkin in Chicago Hope. Oh, yeah.
He was off the show for a while. Now he's back.
Is he back?
Yes.
Yeah, I think his singing career maybe didn't do everything he wanted it to.
That's right.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Well, maybe I'll start watching it again.
Yeah.
But I'm not a big TV watcher. I'm not a snob about it. I just sort of got out of the habit because I really like to read books and sort of can't do both. But I like Chicago Hope. And Law and Order. I like the little they go, da-da-dum, the little chug-a-chug before they put the little subtitle. I like that. I guess I'm a lawyer, so I like that.
Now
It's ambiguous because the end of the segments, it's not sort of white hats and black hats. Like even if the good guys win, sometimes something bad comes out of it. So it's more like real life.
That's right. And they don't spoon feed you everything. You just leaves it up to the viewer to draw their own conclusion. If you were stuck in some cabin one day, up north, and you had a TV and you only had two choice of programs, one Chicago Hope and one some PBS documentary, which one would you pick?
Oh, give me back. No, I'd like to have a big stack about 12 feet high of videos of Metro Cafe.
Well, thank you. We will supply you with that. Now, do you consider yourself a political figure or a former political figure?
I'm a former political figure. I'm a public figure because, unless I put a paper bag over my head, people do recognize me. But I'm a former political figure.
Okay. Tell me about your 5-year plan.
My 5-year plan.
Do you have one?
Do I have a 5-year plan? A 5-week plan is long-term planning for me at this stage. Well, no, I'm sort of, when I went to Harvard in the spring of 1994 to the Institute of Politics, they have a lot of people there who maybe have just been defeated in elections or just left positions, but they have this wonderful euphemism. They call it people in transition. So I'm sort of in transition, and actually I'm going to have to make some decisions soon about what I'm going to do. I've got several options, and I've held off making a final decision until my book is done and launched, and I've done everything I can. But I don't have a 5-year plan.
Now, if you met somebody...
So my 5-year plan is to make my accountant happy.
How about getting your own TV show, for instance?
Oh, that'd be great.
Would you like that?
Sure, why not?
What kind of show do you see hosting?
I'd like to have a show where I would interview journalists. And I would have all of their articles, and I would have them highlighted where they make mistakes. And I would... Just kidding.
Let me see. Have I made any mistakes? What was the last book you read?
The last book I read was a novel called When Nietzsche Wept by Irvin Yalom. I'm doing a lot of reading recently. I just finished reading Jack Matlock's book, Autopsy on an Empire, about the end of the Soviet Union. Very interesting book, very thick. A wonderful book that a friend gave me for my birthday in March called Greek as a Treat by Peter France. It's about Greek culture and the position it has in Western culture, but it's very accessible, and it kind of inspires you to go back and read all the stuff that you read as an undergraduate in university and don't remember any of. Wonderful book. I just also read Gore Vidal's memoirs. Now, when my own book was finished, I'm allowing myself to read other people's memoirs. He's terrific. He's a wonderful writer, and I tell you, next time I go to write a book, I'm going to take my knives down to Gore Vidal to have them sharpened because he is just wonderful. That's a few.
Well, obviously you read a lot then. Is this a fun thing for you?
Yeah, I'm a bookworm. I love books. That's why it's so thrilling to me to write a book and know that people are reading it. Because I really love books, and that's my, weakness. I mean, that's my extravagance, is to go and buy tons of books. And actually, when I have books that I haven't read, it's like having money in the bank, knowing that you may be busy now, but when you've got a moment, there's some really wonderful books on your shelf that you're just waiting to have time to read. Yeah.
Where is home for you right now?
Vancouver. For the first time in 10 years, I just have one home. So everything I own is either in my house in Vancouver or in storage. And if I'm looking for it, it's invariably in storage. But
what can we find if we drop by Kim Campbell's place? What would we find behind her door?
An empty larder. What could you find? A nice house with a great view over the city. What I wish you could find is a dog.
Like pets?
Yeah, and I don't have a lifestyle that lets me have a dog. And I'm now starting to read little things about dogs. And I visited a friend recently in California, and they had lots of books about dogs. And she has a huge dog called a Hungarian Commander. And I love big furry dogs, but usually they shed. I mean, I used to have 2 big dogs, and I my whole time taking dog hair off me and sweeping it up. This dog doesn't shed. It's a woolly dog, and it came up to me and rubbed against me. No dog hair. But it's enormous. So I'd like to have a bonsai version of this dog, and I would be very happy.
Why don't you get a cat? A nice Persian, beautiful
I'm
cat.
fond of cats. I am fond of cats. And my mother has a cat. I mean, I'm kind of, ambidextrous where animals are concerned. I like them. I don't like snakes and that kind of stuff. But I had my picture taken on an elephant. That was a real elephant, incidentally, that I was sitting on that magazine cover. People thought it was can you imagine sitting on a stuffed elephant? Ooh, yeah. That was a real elephant. I wouldn't mind having an elephant, but they're a bit large. No, I don't know. I mean, you're right. Cats are very nice, and they're more self-sufficient, so you can go away and leave them. Well, actually, a cat and a dog would be wonderful. No?
Do you play any musical instrument?
Well, I'm happy you asked that question. Yes, I play the piano, I play the guitar, and I play the cello. And I still, mostly I tinkle at the piano still. And I occasionally pick up my guitar, but I have no calluses anymore. And I had to decide whether I was going to give up the cello. And last summer I actually bought a new cello. Because when I was in Ottawa, I hardly had any time to play, and you lose your bowing arm. And I had to say to myself, well, am I going to give it up and say I used to play the cello, or am I going to keep playing? And I thought, if I get run over by a bus tomorrow, it doesn't matter. But supposing I live to 100, what am I going to do between now and then? I have to have hobbies. And the cello is such a wonderful instrument to play with other people and in ensembles. And I love it. I love the sound of it. So I got a new instrument, and I'm going to try to revive it a little bit. I've played it a little bit lately, but not much.
If you've had a rough day at work and you want to come home and unwind, listen to some music in your own place, what would you play on your CD?
Oh, it could be anything. It could be classical music, cello music, which I love. I've got some Jacqueline Dupre, just beautiful. It might be Handel arias. Maureen Forrester singing Handel arias. It might be Billie Holiday. It might be puberty music, the best of Jackie Wilson, or early Elvis or Buddy Holly, or because rock and roll things of the 50s. This is before your time. I can see your eyes glazing over. Ooh, wonderful music. And this is my sister and I. We call this our puberty music.
I'm not as young as you think, by the way. This is all camouflage. Thick makeup.
Good. I really like all different kinds of music. I love opera. I'm very fond of opera. One of my treasured cassettes, when my first husband and I split, he got custody of the record, but I made a copy of it. It's a record of duets of Jussi Björling and Robert Merrill, operatic duets for men. Wonderful. Yeah, I like classical music. I like rock and roll. I'm not big. I don't know a lot about modern pop music. I have to confess, I'm a bit stuck in time. But now, young kids today are playing a lot of the music that, we dance to. And actually, it makes you feel so elderly when you see kids dressing up like 50s teenagers. I used to put on a flapper costume and dance when I was a kid. And I think this is, the equivalent of a flapper costume. Whoa! Anyway.
Wow, we've covered so many things. Let me see.
I think I've told you more than I wrote in my book.
Oh, well, there you go. I'm gonna write.
Metro Cafe.
Oh, that's right. Well, no, we should probably tell them to buy the book and just judge for themselves.
Yeah, Time and Chance. It's a bargain. It's 414 pages of text plus 16 pages of pictures for $34.95 hardcover. That's really a bargain. That's a lot of pages for your $1. And it's a good read. And all my friends say, it's a real page turner. And it's stuff you'll never read anywhere else about what it's like to be on the inside of the political system. And there's some humor. And my mother loved it.
Now, let's play a game of word association. What I'm going to do is I'm going to name some words that come to my mind, and I want you to tell me, in a phrase or in another word, what, that means to you. Success.
Individual, not money.
Fun.
Anything you do that gives you joy.
Work.
Work is fun if you enjoy it. And if you don't enjoy it, you should find some other kind of work.
Family.
Very important. The people who are hanging in there when nobody else is.
Challenge.
I can't live without it. Yeah. I think what I have is a glandular disability, which means that unless my adrenaline's pumping, I can barely function, so I have to have a challenge.
Good. Canada.
An unbelievably wonderful country. that I had the privilege of getting to know. Canadians, people who should smarten up, save this country.
Entertainment.
Entertainment. I mean, doesn't serve entertainment. Singing, dancing, leaping about.
Chicago Hope.
Mandy Patinkin. Whoops, I just did something terrible to your
that's all
microphone.
right. And the last one, romance.
Romance. A piece by Rachmaninoff.
Okay. Now, one last question. Having been in office, what is your perception of the Canadian government now that you're not so involved in it as much as before?
I wouldn't touch that line with a 10-foot pole.
Thank you very much.
No, I should say, I don't mean to be negative about it. I just mean to say, I don't think I'm in political punditry for the present.
Well, you've given us more than we want, and we're very happy that you're here on Metro Cafe. Thank you very much.
Have fun.
It was a pleasure. We're going to get you to do...
Okay. Hi, I'm Kim Campbell. You're watching Metro Cafe. Don't go away. No, I looked away. So, okay. Ready?
3, 2, 1.
Hi, I'm Kim Campbell. You're watching Metro Cafe. Don't go away.
All right.